let's start with free agency. The fact they did just ship out Teoscar Hernandez a couple of days ago, which means that they are in on an outfielder. My guess is a center fielder. My guess is someone who hits left-handed. And
Recording in progress.
I know that Michael Baboa, okay, the Baboa bomb.
The Baboa bomb.
Now, he's an old school dude. I do think he still has some sources in the industry. He does get some right every once in a while, but I know that you have put it very well, right? That if you throw out 100 rumors and one lands, all of a sudden you're an insider, although this guy has done it a few times, so maybe there is something to this. But he recently tweeted that the Brandon Nimmo sweepstakes are down to 2 teams. Now, the Mets and the Blue Jays have been in a bidding war numerous times over the last couple of years when it comes to free agency. George Springer, of course, wound up going to the Jays. Kevin Gausman, the Mets were in big on, wound up going to the Jays. So we will see how this plays out according to sources, right? And it seems like every analyst out there in the Twitterverse is bringing this up because it's obvious that there's a hole in the Blue Jays outfield, right? It's so easy to throw rumors out there when it just makes so much sense. Yeah, of course the Blue Jays are kicking tires on outfielders.
Yeah, you need 3 outfielders. We have 1.5. Are we going to add one? Sources, like you said the other day, sources being my eyeballs. Blue Jays looking to add in the outfield.
So Brandon Nimmo is an interesting candidate. He's probably the best fit, but it is being rumored that he is going to get a major payday. All right. So Jeff Passan is quoted as saying something along the lines that he is going to get the Sin-Chin Chu contract, which was 5 years, $130 million.
6 years, 130.
Thank you. 6 years, $130 million. I don't know if it's going to be quite that much, but I can see there being that 6th year there. Very similar to what Toronto had to do to get George Springer, which was go that extra year in term. I would guess Brandon Nimmo is probably the same. Listen, I want to clear something up too here because Nimmo, okay, very accredited journalists have used both. By the way, if you are a stickler for exactly how he says it, drop a comment. Let us know.
You know what? I just want to point out how woke of us it is that we're even mispronouncing the white people names.
Yes.
I know we struggle with the international names and we get roasted for that all the time. But it has nothing to do with race. We're just doing our best. 2 idiots doing their best. Original name of the show.
So
Brandon Nimmo.
So Brandon, continue. Yes. So Brady Nimmo.
Yeah. Tim Brady. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clear up. I know some folks were roasting me in particular for saying a big lefty bat. I do want to defend my take here. Obviously, maybe I'm communicating myself improperly because I'm well aware that he's not, for lack of a better term, big with full of power and all that sort of thing. What I more meant is that he's got a 135 plus OPS over the last 2 years. He gets on base at an incredible rate. Over the last 3 years, he's had an OPS 800 or higher. He is slot
6'3". He is technically big.
He's technically big. Yeah, maybe I used the wrong term there. Okay, so let's reel it in. I'm well aware where Brandon Nimmo would fit. I kind of had envisioned him in that 5 hole in the middle of the order for a few reasons. Number one, splits up all the righty bats. Also, George Springer seems like he is going to be our long-term leadoff man. Now, I'm all for Springer moving out of center field. I'm all for Springer moving to that second hole in the batting order. I've wanted Springer hitting second since they acquired him. But I just kind of assume that part of the reason they weren't doing that is that it was a verbal contract, an agreement amongst the Blue Jays organization and George Springer when he signed that he would be allowed to stay as the leadoff guy, which is where he is most comfortable and has spent almost his entirety of his career hitting. Now, it is stated that Ross Atkins kind of mentioned this in his press conference recently, that if there is an opportunity to bring in a center fielder that improves this Blue Jays team, that George is fine with moving to right field. Now, George Springer is going into his age 33 season. He's 6'3". He's 250 pounds. He's a big dude to play center field. And we've talked about this before, that the bigger the body, the quicker it wears down at a position that is as stringent as center field. So if he's prepared to move to right, maybe he is prepared to go into that second hole. Because Nimmo in the leadoff spot would be fantastic, which is where he kind of projects as a hitter, would be leadoff. Then if you can go out there and pick up, let's say, a Michael Brantley, free up the DH spot a bit more, and you can rotate Springer and him through it, this would require, obviously, a catcher being moved. We don't want to bring up the name, but, Kirk is who makes sense. He's who's taken up the most DH spots. I just think if you can bring in a guy like Michael Brantley, or even a Michael Conforto on a short-term 1-year, 2-year deal, who can also slot into that top 5 in the rotation and break up those right-handed bats, which is obviously what the Blue Jays are trying to do here. It's why they traded Teoscar. And I know Blue Jays fans are really upset right now with the return, or the majority of them are, but there is a bigger picture happening here. And I think it really does have a lot to do with this organization has tried to ignore handedness for the last 2 years, and it has not worked. So I think you look at the teams who have won World Series, who have been the furthest in the playoffs over the last couple of years, they're pretty balanced lineups. Let's be serious. So I think that's what's going on here. Listen, we'll move on from Nimmo, however you want to say it. But there are still a pile of outfield rumors around this Toronto Blue Jays organization. Adam, like there should be.
Like there should be. Here's one that I've got my eyes on. This tweet comes in from Jon Morosi. The hashtag Blue Jays, clever use of the hashtag there, are one team to watch on Cody Bellinger if he is non-tendered by the Dodgers. Again, they are known to have interest in Brandon Nimmo as well. What do you think of Cody Bellinger, Scott? Because I've been kind of calling for Bellinger since last year's trade deadline. I was actually saying it should be a Teoscar for Bellinger straight across trade. I like Bellinger. I think he's not going to get Sin Choo Choo money. That's for sure.
No.
He's going to be less money we spend on the outfield. That's more money we can put into pitching or whatever the case may be. I know that Cody Bellinger has struggled in the last couple of years. Defensively, still elite. Great center fielder out there. Great defense. This is a guy who won Rookie of the Year and was MVP not long ago. And he's only 27. I don't know why he seems to have fallen off a cliff, but this is a Blue Jays team who loves projects. They love reclamation projects.
Here is where I am on Cody Bellinger. I'm all for him. If he is playing second fiddle to a Nimmo. I like the idea of bringing him in they just cleared out Raimel Tapia. They just cleared out Bradley Zimmer. There is room for an outfielder on this bench. A guy like Bellinger can play all three outfield positions. He's been a playoff man for years. He's done well in the playoffs, even in 2021, when he basically shot the bed all season long And then he came into the playoffs and he hit, I think it was 360 or something like that. He hit incredibly well in the 2020 World Series where he struggled in the 2020 season. Had 4 home runs and a batting average above 300. I would like to see Cody Bellinger in a bench role play himself onto the team if this is a route the Blue Jays want to go. Personally, I think there's no reason for us to take a project unless it's that sort of scenario. I understand everyone's screaming about money, but I really think that this is the window. Spend now. I don't want excuses from Rogers. I don't give a shit that they're a separate entity from the actual full Rogers body of work or whatever there, right? And that, yes, the Blue Jays are their own financial entity and have their own budget. And that, yes, the ownership group being the second richest in all of baseball is a little misleading when you start to break down the corporate structure. I don't care, man. I just don't care. Spend the frickin' money. This is right now. We have Vladdy under contract at a very reasonable rate, even with his RBers. I know this next season he's probably making $13 million or something like that after arbitration, and probably by the time he's a free agent in 2026, it's over $20 million a year. That's good. That's great because you're still getting good value back on that. I know Bo Bichette is ARB eligible. There is money attached to this young core, but I don't know, man. Where are you at? Like, do you think that they need to? Do you think Bellinger on his own, with the question marks around it, is something a competing team like the Jays should do?
There are guys like this, as you call them, a buy low, high ceiling guy, and this is to a T. You're getting him at his absolute lowest, and we've seen the ceiling. The ceiling is literally 47 home runs, MVP, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger. This is a potential game changer that could cost us almost nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whether it's via trade, if the Dodgers do re-sign him and we got to throw something their way to get him. The Dodgers don't seem enamored by him. The upside with Bellinger is higher than the upside with Nimmo. And I'm worried about Nimmo and giving him a big contract. We talked numbers earlier. To give him George Springer kind of money.
There's a lot of reasons to be trepidatious about this. Carry on.
The injury history
Yes.
with Brandon Nimmo is extensive. Like, it is deeper than you'd like to see with a guy that we're going to have to give 6 years to. Well over $100 million if that's what we're going to have to do. Like, if we're going to go compete against the Mets again to bring in Brandon Nimmo, we're going to be putting out something similar to George Springer kind of a contract for a guy who does have an injury history. Like, do you like the vision of the Blue Jays where we've got Springer and Nimmo and they're both splitting time on the IL, making, $35 million between the two of them? That's just is a really, I'm scared off of that. And again, I know he's a lefty bat. He still is not the power lefty, right? Like, George Springer has almost more leadoff home runs in his career than Brandon Nimmo has home runs total. I think it's like 63 career home runs for Nimmo, 50-ish leadoff home runs for Springer. So if we're going to spend that kind of money, at least George Springer has that elite offense upside. Cody Bellinger, man, like, I'm looking at his stats right now on Baseball Reference. Doesn't have a deep injury history here. 6 years in the league. 2022, he played 56 games. Again, that was the COVID season. So 56 out of 60. 2021, he played 95 games. So missed some time in 2021. Otherwise, it's like 132 his rookie season. 162, that was his sophomore season. 156 in 2019, that's when he was an MVP. Again, only 3 seasons removed from an MVP season. The numbers for everyone in 2020 were kind of wonky, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe injuries plagued him in 2021 and that carried over into this year. I mean, over the last 3 seasons, his batting average is 203 with an OPS of 648. You don't like that at all. But over his first 3 seasons, career batting average 278, OPS 928. I'll take that. And if it's just a matter of maybe something wasn't quite right and he can get right, oh man, does that ever get me excited? I don't know. Cody Bellinger all day. I would way rather have the Brandon Nimmo. The contract isn't going to be as much. If we
I
have
want
to trade
both.
for him, yeah, I don't know where we fit both in unless Gurriel's gone, and maybe that's the plan.
I don't think it is. Look at how much Raimel Tapia played as the 4th outfielder last season.
True.
You know, he played what, almost 145 games or something like that. I mean, so and I listen, you are 100% correct. Giving Brandon Nimmo a giant contract with a lot of term has a lot of risk to it because of his injury past. His injured past, I guess, is the best way of putting it. I mean, since 2017, his games played go as such. 69 played in 2017. He played 140 in 2018. Had a very injury-marred 2019 with 69 games played. He played almost the entire 2020 season with 55 games. Of course, that was the shortened 60-game season. Had an injury-marred 2021 with 92 games played. And then last year was the healthiest he's ever been at 151 games. He's 29 years old. So he's 2 years older than Cody Bellinger. He's an on-base machine. Again, he's not going to replace Teoscar's home runs. But the dream is that he slots in higher in the lineup to get on for guys like George Springer. I like the idea of Cody Bellinger. I just don't like the idea of him being the guy. And if it doesn't work out, now we're like, well, we just got rid of Teoscar Hernandez, and now there's a black hole that we need to bat ninth and limp through.
Yeah, I guess
because he'll probably be non-tendered, which means the Jays might be able to get him on a 1-year deal for like $8 million.
Right. That's the appeal, man. That's the appeal. Or sign him to maybe a 2 or 3 year deal for like 30, 40 million or something, right? I like it. I like pairing that with the added value of still having more money to spend on other options, right? Like going after a Dansby Swanson or Jacob deGrom or Justin Verlander might be overreaching a little bit, but would I rather give Cody Bellinger $8 million and cross my fingers that upside appears again in 2023 versus giving $20 million a year to Brandon Nimmo? That's kind of where I'm at. Like that's potentially $12 million less that we can offer a pitcher. So if we're going out and we're spending $20 million a year on a pitcher, I'd rather have Bellinger and then have the ability to spend $32 million a year on a starting pitcher and maybe go actually get a Justin Verlander on a 2-year crazy deal or something. I don't know. I am souring a little bit on Brandon Nimmo. The injury history concerns me. The lack of pop in his bat does concern me. The indications of what kind of money he's expected to get in free agency is a concern. Committing 6 years to a guy with an injury history and doesn't on base percentage, man, it doesn't quite scream mega deal for me. I mean, I'm not giving Kevin Biggio $100 million contract either. So lefty bat that can play the outfield, Kevin Biggio. I don't know, on base percentage machine. Am I crazy? Am I being too harsh on Brandon Nimmo by pulling Kevin Biggio's name out?
I feel you are. I totally get, honestly, I get where you're coming from, man.
I know.
I think Nimmo's the guy. I think him in center field is just so good for this team, and it opens up so many opportunities. And I truly believe that the money isn't going to impede starting pitching, because I think this organization has a plan to get starting pitching through trade. So if there's certain amount of money allocated to free agency and their plan is to fill their outfield need with that money, as long as that they're still addressing the starting pitching, I think it's fine. I mean, we are running with 3 above average catchers. There's a reason to think that there's a possibility to fill some needs using some strength, an area of strength, right? We really appreciate all of you within the walk-off community. This thing continues to grow and become an animal of its own. It's a little bit overwhelming, but honestly, we love talking Blue Jays baseball and all the interaction that you folks are involved with us. Thank you so much. Discord, feel free to join it. That is always free. The show, or the link is in the show notes. You can follow us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube currently and you're not subscribed, we'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. All the best, everybody. Cheers.